Week 12, we are covering procedures, functions, and triggers. And so you definitely want to read the book. Then you are going to go through the lecture demo. And the lecture demo kind of summarizes what we did last week and then kind of talks about some similarities between stored procedures, user-defined functions, and triggers, and what the different purposes of each are, so you know when to use them. And then this table kind of goes through the differences between a script, a stored procedure, a user-defined function, and a trigger. And first we cover stored procedures. So you will learn how to create those. And typically a database administrator does this to have a little bit more control over things that are happening in the database because the user can just simply execute a stored procedure and that runs the code that the administrator has set up. So the end user is not actually doing their own select queries. They're just running code from the queries that the DBA has created. Okay, and procedures can accept parameters, they can return output parameters, but they are not required. Just depends on what the code needs in order to run. Once we get through with procedures, we get into user-defined functions. And again, this is something that a developer or a DBA would create. If you have a routine that other scripts could use that you think are going to be used over and over again, it is smart to put it into a function and then other people can use it. So with functions, you can have scalar or table values being returned or passed. And basically, they can be used in place of a column. So you can actually have data returned and displayed in a column. You can use them in a where statement. There's all sorts of uses for functions. So this goes through and gives you lots and lots of examples of how to use them. And again, these are examples you can copy and paste into your own query window. And then we get into triggers, which in my opinion are really cool because the DBA would set them up ahead of time and you code them once and they are stored with the database and they automatically run. So an example would be if someone deletes customer data, that deleted row is automatically added to a customer archive table. Or when somebody enters quantity and we have a product price, you can set it up to automatically create a total. So that's the type of thing that triggers do. They run in the background and they are triggered by some kind of event. And the events are typically inserting data, updating data, or deleting data. Those are the types of events that you can create triggers for. So this talks about how to create a trigger and then how to implement the trigger. Okay. And so here is a code example of a trigger. You could actually, this is example from the an example from the examples database. You can actually copy this and run it and kind of follow what it's doing. Now, once you complete that, you're going to go through the textbook assignment. And for the textbook assignment, you can see that I've got videos split into different sections. And as you work through here, it probably will be helpful to watch the video, so I highly encourage it. But you are going to be practicing creating procedures. You'll do simple procedures that don't have any parameters. You will also create procedures with parameters and return values. And then you will be creating user-defined functions. And finally, you will be creating triggers. And for the lab assignment, it is a final project assignment. So this is the last thing you need to do for your term project. So for your term project, you need to create a stored procedure that retrieves and displays data, create a stored procedure that takes one or more input parameters. You have to do a stored procedure that takes one or more input parameters, and it includes at least one output parameter. And you need a fourth stored procedure that includes a return value. Then you will create a couple of functions. One function, it needs to be a scalar function that accepts an argument. And the second function needs to be a table function that accepts at least one argument, but returns a table. Then you are going to create some triggers. You need to create a trigger that will add deleted data from one of your tables into an archive or transaction table. You need an insert trigger, and you need an update trigger. Okay, and you will save these in a file and upload them in the Dropbox as the last part of your term project. Once you finish all that, there is an extra credit opportunity for test number 3. So if you did not do well on that test and you'd like to earn some extra points, the points go towards your total points in the course. So they will only help your grade. They will not hurt your grade, but there is an extra credit opportunity for you here. If you are confused about procedures, functions, or triggers, there are some videos that you guys can watch. And if you have questions or run into problems with these, please let me know. I am happy to help. And if you are creating your own procedures, functions, or triggers, it is helpful if you send me your code because then I can duplicate it on my system and I'll be able to run it and hopefully help you problem solve. Have a great week and let me know if you have any questions.